there's no exception there in the corporate world. The challenge that most of our clients have, and our clients are in some cases gigantic, like Amazon or Comcast or Ford, and they're also tiny, but they all have the same challenge, and that is how to tell a good story about what they do. And our job is what you see here, which is to basically simplify and demystify what they offer to their customers. That's initially, but also to sales teams who have to go sell stuff, to prospects who are thinking about becoming a customer, and even investors who just don't understand what the new offering is. And in many cases, a brand new offering is brand new to everybody, except for the people who just the 2 or 3 people, maybe they're founders over there who joined Microsoft, but they couldn't tell what they were doing exactly. But when they finally could illuminate what their invention was, they could sell it. So, but my job is to tell stories, and to tell stories for the corporations that hire us. But anyway, I'm going to give you the goal here is to tell you essentially what the great parameters of storytelling are. If you're going to tell your story, whether it's to a prospective employer, because you're thinking about you're going to be graduating soon. Sorry if you put the pressure on. Or if you have an existing product or service that you want to talk about to a prospect or a client. So first I'm going to talk about those parameters, and it's all data driven. We've been doing it for 20 years, and we've gathered tons of data. But the second part of this conversation, the last part, will be about how AI, which is obviously a tsunami that's hitting all of us, that AI is actually the least sexy, least interesting versions of AI are actually the ones that are helping us the most. They're the most, what I would call low-hanging fruit. Anyway, here we go. So yeah, I did a lot of work for the Today Show for a long time, but I started as a journalist. I was a writer for the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Fast Company magazine. I was the ski test director for Ski Magazine, and so on. But what became really clear was that writers who were on TV got paid better than writers who were not on TV. So that was, even an English major could understand that equation. So I worked hard, and I became the gear and tech editor for the Today Show. So my job was to go on live and talk with Al Roker or Katie Couric or Meredith Vieira, whoever was assigned to me by my producer, to explain something complicated to an audience that was interested in it but didn't have a background in it. So my job was to tell a good story fast. And that is the essence of storytelling in the corporate world and everywhere else. And the fast part I'm going to get to really quickly. No coincidence. Those are our clients. There are many more of them. Many of them are huge. Many of them are tiny, but they all have the same challenge. And here are the 3 best guidelines and parameters you can use as you start to think about telling your own story to an employer, potentially, or to a customer or a prospect. Time, tone, and placement are the 3 main components of a good story. It's no more complex than that. We'll get to it, and we'll get some of the particulars, but that is the thing to think about. So let's start with time. I stole this from Shakespeare. Brevity is the soul of wit, is what he wrote. But brevity is now the soul of commerce. If you can do this storytelling fast, people will stick with you. If you can't, and that's mostly the young people's fault in this room. You guys are into TikTok, you guys are into Insta, you guys are into Snap and all that stuff. Great. Well, you now are giving your brain less and less time to tell a story or to consume one. So how fast? Well, our clients will say, we want a short video, like 5 minutes. Okay, short, I agree with. 5 minutes, I don't. After 1 minute and 10, you've lost 80% of your audience, easily. Depends on the platform, especially true on social media, of course, but nonetheless, that's true. So minute 30, basically everybody's gone. Challenge, if you put a call to action at the end of your thing, like call us or get in touch, or here's how to find the offer, here's who will hear your call. Nobody. So, and that's why. So, okay, so how, if you're talking, Paul, about how briefly you have to tell your story, how quickly you have to tell it, the first video abandonment point, meaning and video, by the way, this is the undertone of all of this. Video is the preferred medium for most communications these days, mostly because of that smartphone I left over there. I'm still feeling the tug, right? We all kind of want the phone. Well, video is the medium. So if that's true, when do they leave is an interesting question to ask. Answer 3 seconds is their first itch to get out of there. The average viewing, the reason I put up 6 seconds, because the average viewing time of video on Facebook, anybody under the age of 40 doesn't know what that is, but it's a thing. Instagram is owned by Facebook. I hope that helps. Anyway, the average viewing time of video on Facebook is 6 seconds. The average viewing time of video on Instagram is 12 seconds. On LinkedIn, when it's B2B, is 15 seconds. So that's hopefully compelling, because that's how long you have to tell that story. Okay, so 15 seconds. 6 seconds is good for sort of social media to 15 max. And then maximum, if you've driven somebody down from that sort of initial consideration down to actually going to your landing page, you're looking at your product or your service, they may give you a minute. But that's about it. The medium matters, and we'll talk about that in a second. So those are important. And by the way, I'm going to make this available to Jackie and to Stella and anybody else. So if you want to take this down or something, I can happily provide it if you don't want to write notes. But here we go. So here we go. Those are our best practices. We talked about time. We'll get to tone and placement in a sec. Under a minute, about 30, because if you're making an ad, that's about what somebody might consume. 15 and 6 we talked about. So here are these spikes in video a minute when they're going to leave. 3 seconds, they have that itch to leave. And if you keep them around past 3, they'll get to about 9 seconds. And then they'll want to leave again. People have no patience. And again, it's your fault. Anybody under 40. 59 max. So next, tone. And again, we're going to get the data under this, and then we're going to get to AI in a second. But here's really important stuff for corporate storytelling. You guys going into marketing, and you guys are in marketing. Tell it, don't sell it. In other words, if you say, we are the greatest company since sliced bread was invented, your audience will be gone before that 3-second mark. They don't care about you. The viewer does not care about the company. The viewer cares about the viewer. So if you explain what you do or help someone, they'll stick around. If you tell them that Comcast, which is our client, which continues to ask us, can you tell them that this router is the fastest, best router ever? And we say, we can, but would you rather that they leave? Because they're not going to stick around if you tell them how great you are. They're going to stick around if they find out what's in it for them. So tell it, don't sell it. And the further down the sales funnel you go, the more this is true. The closer you get to that moment of conversion where that customer's going, I've been marketed to, that's pretty cool. I'm actually considering getting on board. They want less sales and more help. The operative form of every successful piece of content, whether it's video or another, is to give in marketing. In other words, here's something for you. Did you know this? Or guess what? We want to help you. Here's some cool things we're going to give you. Insights, data, next steps, doesn't matter. But if the tone of that is to give, to offer, they'll stick around. And the sticking around part, this is the biggest challenge because most people think, oh, I'm going to make content and the world will beat a path to my door. Answer, they will not. They want to know what's in it for them. So give them something. This is how it works. I'm now going to show you 2 videos. One is 6 seconds long. I promise 6 seconds is how you tell a story. And so I'll show that we can do it. And you can see. But the first one is, this is GP Pro. Georgia Pacific is GP Pro. Georgia Pacific makes Dixie cups. Do anybody here not know what a Dixie cup is? Okay, you don't? Where have you been? Okay, Dixie cups are paper cups. And if you go to Starbucks, the vast majority of them are GP Pro products. GP Pro had a problem. Procurement managers, this is an unusual audience, procurement managers were not buying their product because their product was about a half a penny more per cup. And the procurement manager does not get even raised by buying more expensive stuff. They get raised by buying less expensive stuff. And GP was a little bit more expensive. We made, and I'm showing this first, the least sexy video we've made in, 4,000, 5,000 videos over 20 years. And it had this effect. Demand went up, depending on where you looked, on Amazon for Business by close to 5x. And the glance views, which is somebody's intent to go look at more, went up almost 3x. I'll show you the video. There we go. Oh, just like Jackie, get my glasses out. It's not my fault. Okay. And I'm going to, because this is the jury rig thing, I'm going to hold the mic up to the end. Here we go. This literally is the thing that converted.
Newsflash: coffee is hot. So most coffee cups use extra bulk and therefore extra weight to handle the heat. For the rescue, Perfect Touch Cup helps protect your hands with an insulated single wall design and uses less material than other paper cup and sleeve offerings. That means Perfect Touch Cup can save space and delivery costs. Now that is big news.
If you can save space and delivery costs, your procurement manager is going to listen to your pitch. That's all we needed to say. Here's why. So that's fine. That's great. Challenge was, getting that clear message sent to all these people who buy stuff. We didn't need to be cute or gorgeous or anything. We just needed to explain. So let me show you that 6-second video. And this is the other challenge. How fast can you tell a story? This is Intuit, which is QuickBooks, TurboTax, and other companies, but Intuit is the company that owns it. They had a challenge. They were building payroll software for small businesses. Here's what small businesses think about payroll software. They don't. So here's what they don't do. Also, they don't want to get into software because they're small businesses. They own coffee shops. They own whatever they make, but they're not in software. And many of them are not small companies. Are not tech companies, and they don't think as a small company they will be able to handle payroll. They don't want to get investigated by the IRS. They're scared of all this stuff. They're like, no, software. Pitches were going nowhere. Pitches buy into it to small businesses. So we had to explain, hey, the message was, and it's the top of the funnel, we'll talk about it in a second, chill out, small businesses. This isn't so tough. Here we go. And we had 6 seconds because this was a Facebook ad campaign. Here we go. Oops. I'll play it again. Cursor over there, so that was it. 6 seconds. Guess what? Calls coming in from sales teams went from a 4%-ish success rate to about a 40%-ish success rate. Sales went up 20% in a quarter to these small businesses. All they did was send out a video explaining what this is simple. The story was, hey, it's simple. How long did they have to tell them? 6 seconds. That's what we did. So the point is, if you can be brief, if you can offer somebody something, people are going to stay interested, especially brief. So here we go. Great. This is the part of the story that I told you I wouldn't tell you, which is how wonderful we are. But the point is the results were good. Here we go. And they worked great. Okay. Here's something to think about. You have 3 jobs when you're telling that corporate story. When you're marketing, I don't care what you're marketing. I don't care to whom you are marketing. The 3 things you have to do are attract, get them to notice, increasingly difficult in a cluttered media universe. Then if you have attracted them successfully, you simplify. That's your job. Simplify what you're offering. We make it easy to pay your kids, your employees. It's easy. That's simplifying. Not, underlying this is correlation and compliance with the IRS's regulatory blah, blah, blah. No, it's that. Simplify. Finally, if you've driven them down the sales funnel, guess what? Your job is to educate. It is not to sell. Remember, do not sell. Tell. Okay, educate. How long do you have to do that? That's what I listed on the left. 5 seconds to attract, 45-ish to simplify. And if you are really good at what you do, they'll give you up to a minute to educate them. And by the way, this is one little sort of sidebar. The sales funnel is no longer a funnel if you're responsible, because the cost of sales is high for anybody to go out there and sell stuff. It's really difficult. And a lot of companies, once you've sold somebody, they kind of disappear. Thank you so much for buying our router. Bye. Jackie agrees. Yes. So now it's not a funnel, it's an hourglass. Just a little insight. You can look at this later. The fact is, once you're done selling, you got to start all over again. Send them a little support. That's a synonym for educate, but support after they bought something. By the way, thanks for buying our $1,000 Google Pixel phone or your $1,000 Apple. What is it? Is it iPhone 17 now? 18? Where are we? Come on, smart people. 17. Thank you. 17, 18's coming out. Okay. Free bottle of tequila for you. Don't worry. Okay, don't worry. That said, that is expensive. So if you just converted them, bottom of the funnel, congratulations, you sold them a $1,000 phone, which they're going to pay for over 3 years with interest. Oh my God, what a racket, right? And then you don't send them a support video that educates them about the thing you just bought. You're not smart. So don't do that. Follow up. Anyway, that's more for later. This is what we do. I won't bore you with it, but we do talk to our clients when they're thinking about what they're going to make. We write a script for them. Now we're going to get to AI. Then we shoot or digitally shoot the video, and then we're done. It takes about 3 weeks. That's fast on most of the agencies. Comcast, for example, has 8 agencies of record. You guys have an internal agency that you're sort of building?
Yes.
You guys are?
Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
If you want to stay employed and then grow, even though you guys are, and again, this is not a compliment or pejorative, you are minuscule. You are 3 people, right? Or 10. Agencies that Comcast have hundreds, if not thousands of people involved, publicists. These are all gigantic places. The reason we're a dust speck, okay? Humongous Media, for all its huge name, is tiny. And we've gotten tinier thanks to AI, which we're about to get to. But the reason we're still in business is we're just like the videos. We're quick. We get an email from somebody, my folks get back to somebody within an hour, maybe less, ideally less, 30 minutes. And inevitably, the people at the other end, Comcast is giant, of course, Amazon's giant, Ford is huge, Kaiser Permanente, they're all giant. And when they get an email back in like 10 minutes, they're like, we love you. Will you marry us? Answer is sure. You know, and so that is what. So the 3 weeks part is part and parcel of that delivery stuff. So here we go. Thank you. That's my email. And wait, AI. Okay, here we go. Real quick. I'm going to give you guys 3 LLM/ models that exist. That most people have heard of 2 of them, and they probably haven't heard of this one. That will speed up this communication. We have found it to be, and it is TLDB. I looked it up. I had to look it up because it's not that expensive. I had to look it up before I came here. How much are we spending on this? $214 a year, which for most companies is not a huge expense. Okay, but here's what it does. We talked about talking to the client, getting the essence of what they do. The reason I love my job is because I get to talk to really smart people about brand new stuff. That's cool to me. I'm fairly curious. I'm interested in what's going on. And they tell me all this stuff. And they go, so can you make us, like we said, a 5-minute video? We say, no. We'll make you a short piece of content. Yes. Our challenge is taking that story they tell us and distilling it into a story that the consumer, the customer, the prospect, the investor, whoever wants to consume. Okay, so here we go. What's this? This is what TLDB looks like. TLDB is nothing more than a, and by the way, they're competitors. This is not the only one in town. It just works. TLDB is an acronym for too long didn't video. TLDR is too long didn't read. You may or may not have heard that. Somebody, inevitably some boss of yours or boss's boss's boss will send you a 4,000-word essay on, the meaning of life. And oh, by the way, could you please execute this plan? You're like, TLDR, too long didn't read. TLDV, too long didn't video. This records just like it's a plugin. Works with Zoom. Works with what's the Microsoft product? Teams. Teams. Sorry, you owe me $5. Microsoft Teams. And anybody, Zoom, Teams, Google Hangouts, which is what we use. The point is, it's a plugin. It just turns on. And here's what it does. It records the meeting, and I'll just click. I'm not going to go on a rant. I'll just give you an example. Chewy's a client of ours. Chewy distributes pet products, dog food, cat food, toys, you name it. And they distribute lots. They are the giant in the business. Just like Amazon's the giant in e-commerce, Chewy's the giant in pet stuff, which is about a $35 billion industry. So it's not small. Fine. So they said, we're coming out with a brand new thing, CMC, which is Chewy Marketing Cloud. And basically, they're trying to tell their vendors, a vendor of Chewy would be Purina or IAMS or somebody, and then a gazillion brands you've never heard of. And their challenge is, Chewy, try and make money more than once. In other words, we, Chewy, don't want to just sell the dog food and get 5 cents on that bag. We also want our vendors spending money on us to get more distribution, to get more market. So they're creating marketing programs. Chewy Marketing Cloud is just like that iPhone that you got, you spent $1,000 on, and you can't figure out how to use 90% of the features and functions because nobody's helping you. Chewy was like, nobody's buying our marketing programs, which make us tons of dough. Our margins are huge on those programs. They said, hey, Paul and Humongous Media, can you please help us explain to our vendors, Purina et al., what this marketing cloud does for them? So we had a meeting. Now this is the low-hanging fruit I was talking about. Unsexy LLM/AI model. But guess what it does? Something very sexy, which is it speeds up your day by about 1,000 times, makes you smarter. And remember that thing we talked about with getting back to your client within about 2, 3, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and blowing their minds, and they'll be eating out of your hand for the rest of your life? That's what this does. So here, I'll give you an example. This is a summary of the meeting. There's the video. You can see the video up there. That's the recorded meeting of roughly 43 minutes, almost 44 minutes. At the end of the 44 minutes, this instantly showed up in my inbox, my email, and on TLDB's platform. Here it is. Great. What do I do with it? Well, if you see those little blue numbers on the right, Those are called what we call time code. And that time code corresponds with the sentence to the left of that time code, which is what happened at that moment. And we say, oh, wait, I know. I'm going to do it for you in front of you. So it's a great risk. So, fasten your seatbelts. I'm going to say, well, first of all, if you click in the ask anything about your meeting prompt bar at the bottom, up comes some prompts for you. Customer pain points, follow-up email drafter, competitor radar, performance report, all that stuff. I don't care about that currently. I just don't. So I make it go away. But I do say, what did Paige say are the most important next steps? Paige is that person on the right. Click. There are Paige's next steps. Cool. And if I wasn't sure that that was accurate, guess what? There's the time code. I click on the time code and I go right to the moment. Measurement suite clarity. I click on it and it takes me right to the moment in the meeting when she said it. Awesome. Now I'm like, oh, okay. Now I want to know, draft an email of no more than 80 words to Paige that summarize next steps and thank her for her time. Click. Let's see what it does. There you go. Hi, Paige. Thank you for your time and collaboration on the scripted call. We finalized the audience connect. And I say, oh, that's great, but people love bullets. And I'll say, please add, and you can see where this is going, bullets to summarize those next steps for the email draft. And I do it, and up it comes. Now, this is literally, we're within 2 minutes of me starting to type, or 3 minutes, and there it is. Hey, Paige, thanks for your time. Measurement suite message. Here are next steps. Boing, boing, boing. We'll follow up on the website. Tile approach with Frank. That's our boss, who was, by the way, mentioned in the meeting, so the email is aware of that. The partner TLD is aware, and appreciate the partnership best. And if I don't like it, I can tweak it a little bit. But that's awesome. I don't want you to overlook or miss, and we're drawing to a close, don't worry, but this is really important. Brevity is the soul of commerce. Well, brevity is the soul of your survival going forward as you consider yourself an employee of someone, or a prospective employee of someone, or a customer of someone. Brevity, brevity, brevity. People's expectations are shaped by their environment. Their environment is that smartphone. Bar none, the most influential. Their smartphone gives them, I told my kids, 300 years ago, you'd be burned at the stake for the stuff you can do right now. You can summon food. You can call in air support. you can send a love letter to someone around the world. 300 years ago, good luck, buddy. You'd literally be, they'd drown you as a witch, okay? That's how amazing this is. However, brevity has now driven people to expect quick stuff. Now, a couple more things real fast, and then we're done. We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the beginning of a video that's the longest video we made pretty much in the last 3 years. The only reason I'm going to show you the beginnings of it, not the whole thing, this had no words other than graphical text and music. It's not a voiceover. This video we made for Amazon to announce the addition of augmented reality to their shopping app. Problem, nobody knew what the heck augmented reality was, let alone how it would help their shopping. So they'd spent roughly, and this is public, around $18 million developing the software, and 0 people were using it. So could you please make a video that explains how cool this is? Sure. This thing got 220 million views on YouTube. That's a lot. Here's why. Because it's simplified stuff. Here we go. Show you the beginning, not the whole thing, because I know you can't stand more than 19 seconds. Here we go. Okay, you get the idea. That's the bird at the stake part. You can see stuff that's not there. That's cool. Now, I've touted the beauty of all this stuff. I'm going to tout the danger. So here we go. We've talked about TLDV, works great. Now I'm going to show you how it can be a challenge. This ChatGPT, which you've all certainly heard of, there are all the many conversations on the left. Here's what I do with that chewy stuff. I said, hey, we just had this meeting. TLDB recorded it. I can get a summary within TLDB of what happened. I can make it any length and any level of specificity. I can make it 50 words or 500 words. All that stuff is cool. I said, hey, since we have to write a script that needs to get approved by the client, I'll take that, the summary of that meeting, I'll shove it into ChatGPT, and I'll give ChatGPT 2 or 3 other scripts that we've written before that were very successful, and say, hey, see this, see this example? Follow this example. Please take everything that was said in that 45-minute meeting, follow the structure, which is a very hard-won victory of creating good scripts that people watch, and use that script as a model, and give me a script of, and by the way, this is an insight if it's helpful, about 1 minute of video is 100 words of script. So you be the judge. 100 words, 1 minute. You can tailor off of that. Great. So I said, make me a script of about 100 minutes or a little less, because this was going to be a landing page at the bottom of that funnel. You remember Educate? Cool. I said, go for it, baby. And it did. And I almost sent it to him. But CMC, which is Chewy Marketing Cloud, which is what they were selling to their vendors, Purina et al. This is what they called it. This is what ChatGPT called it. Now it's in the friggin' meeting. And by friggin', you know what I mean. It's in the meeting. That was the product, Chewy Marketing Cloud, was uttered multiple times by our client. So I shoved that meeting and the scripts into ChatGPT, and out came collaborative marketing capabilities. Had I sent that to the vendor, to their client, they would have been like, you're so nice, and you're fired. Because how obtuse, how off the charts wrong can you be? Well, apparently very. The sort of thing I want to leave you with in these challenges, these values, and I'm going to show you one last, holy cow, you can't believe it's possible that it got that wrong example, but this is what we're talking about. I'm not sure who it was. Maybe it was Rihanna, but basically being, oh no, it was, what's your name, the son? Julia, sorry. Julia was talking before this started about, well, she's thinking about getting into graphical design, maybe corporate graphical design, and she has to be, what is she going to do if AI can do anything? Cool. Answer this. Have art, have wit, have taste in any of the fields that you pick, because that is going to be your superpower. If you can oversee the output of these models, if you can judge whether or not it's full of it or awesome or somewhere in between, if you are good enough at what you do, you can tweak it modestly, you have A, saved yourself 3 hours, and B, not gotten fired. But also you can start to exert your own power, your own force of taste, of design, etc., on the thing that comes back. For the foreseeable future, meaning the next year at least, probably longer, it's going to take that human input. I'll give you one last example, and then we're done. It's a Runway. Runway is an amazing, yes it is. Runway is an amazing, this makes images. ChatGPT mostly is words, obviously. TLDB sort of takes the images and makes words. This is images. I did a funky video, a comedy video for a group that needed it, and I did it. It's fine. And I said, hey, take this image of me, make it into a biker guy. So it did. Cool, I guess. Sort of disturbing if you're my mom. But anyway, and then I said, hey, I love that. I would like you to make a different character, please, Runway. And by the way, that was quick. Took one image of me, and in like 15 seconds, rendered this. That's a pretty detailed, I said, soft focus in the background. I said, give him a beret, blah, 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 all these details, all these inputs, all these prompts. And I said, cool, I love that. Thank you. I don't know why I was saying thank you. And by the way, interesting little side note, when you say thank you and it computes thank you, you've just done the electrical equivalent of running your microwave for like 4 seconds. It's like really power hungry. With that all aside, I said, that's great. Same skin tone, I said, please, same everything, but make him a gladiator. And I don't know what it thought about, but this is what it came up with. I'm just going to say it adapted more than just whatever. And by the way, good news, I have eyes that continue to work in spite of my advanced age. And I looked and I said, that's not going to work. But the point I guess I'm making is, to conclude, Your story is really going to be the powerful value and benefit you bring to your client, to your customer, to whomever. Your story. You don't have a ton of time to tell that story. And now with AI, you can leverage all your knowledge, all your education here at DePaul or anywhere else, all your background, all your instincts and tastes, to use these simple to use models to judge whether or not the story that's given back to you by these models has any value at all. And that is your superpower. There you go. Thanks.
Paul?
My pleasure.
Do back for questions after.
Sure.
Right? Okay, perfect. All right. Next up. Okay. Vlad Moldavskiy. There go the glasses. A DePaul graduate. Just have to add that, of course, an alumni. He's head of growth and marketing at Halo Investing. Financial Narrative 50 honoree in 2025, former Inc. 5000 entrepreneur. Vlad believes that true growth happens outside of your comfort zone and has consistently sought out opportunities that push limits, even when it would be easier to stay comfortable. This growth-driven mindset has shaped him into a dynamic leader with over a 12-year experience leading B2B organizations, ranging from high-growth startups to large enterprises. Additionally, Vlad started the agency Mabling. He's been head of digital at Morningstar. He's a CMO now at Halo, and he's starting a new agency that we will talk about in a second, very largely driven by AI. So he's busy. I'm going to give you this one, and I have another one.
Testing.
You want me to
All right, there's no fire for the fireside chat, so that was live. There we go. All right, this has to be the one. I do have some prepared questions, but we will take questions from the audience later with Paul. I'm going to start with, you've sat in 3 very different seats of what I just mentioned, serving brands, and your CMO inside one and agency in the other. And has each vantage point shifted how you think about AI, or how you adapt AI within those different roles? And AI probably wasn't wrong when you were like way back, but do you have different viewpoints based on the agency and corporate?
of how it impacts?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of commonalities. Like if I'm looking at like one specific thing that it will benefit me with on the agency side, it's really efficiency and margins, candidly, right? And getting things done cheaper, right? Because like I'm a one-person agency now, right? I want to do as little work as possible and charge as much as I can, right? So that's probably on the agency side. And then on the brand side, right? My full-time role with Halo Investing instead of growth, it's not about margins per se or cutting costs. It's more about velocity and quality, right? And leveraging AI to essentially get things done quicker, right? At higher quality. And I think AI ultimately, empowers that. So I think that's, at the basic level of the vantage point that I look like. Obviously on the agency side, velocity and quality is a thing as well, right? But I think where it helps me the most, right, is minimizing my overhead costs, right? Because it's just a side hustle right now. And I also want to make as much as I can.
Yep. I want to dig into revenue marketers, which is the new agency, because this fascinates me. You created revenue marketers largely with AI. You and AI, and maybe your fiance does some stuff, right? Can you talk about why you started revenue marketers and how you built the capabilities around the AI capabilities?
Yeah, so I guess just rewinding a little bit of like how I even got to revenue marketers. So, I spent the first part of my career, I graduated from DePaul with a finance degree, naively, was learning a lot about digital marketing at a very early time, right? When like SEO, search engine optimization, like was very easy to hack, so to speak. And when I graduated from DePaul University, I had an opportunity to, partner with someone on an agency. The agency was in River North. I thought it was cool, and it was a startup. So being naive, I decided to, kind of pass on the finance, corporate finance experience and start the agency. So I spent 5 years, or 5 or 6 years growing the agency. And then after 5 or 6 years, I, burned out. Client services is very tough at times. I'm sure there's very high demands, right? And I think that's why also AI helps. So I joined Morningstar. It's a global financial services business. I was basically brought in there to modernize their marketing machine for one of their key business units, their investment management group. And at the time, that was probably the smartest decision I ever made from a career standpoint, is kind of putting my entrepreneur ego aside and basically realizing that I need to go work and figure out how to, navigate a ship and learn new skills. And at the time, I became more marketable and people started reaching out during the pandemic of, hey, we're launching a company, or we're buying a company, or we have a marketing director that's underperformed, and people just started reaching out and asking for help. And I was basically at Morningstar then 3 years. The way I describe it, I was on cruise control going 150 miles per hour. So I'm working at home probably 2 hours a day, and then building this side hustle of mine. And this is obviously pre-AI boom, and it was just really hard to scale, right? And ultimately, I decided to continue to work in financial services, insurance, but the demand, kept growing for my help. And I had to turn a lot of people down and a lot of businesses down over many years because, I simply couldn't deliver the work myself. And then if I wanted to deliver the work, I would need to hire people. And I didn't want that liability, on my balance sheet, so to speak. So recently, right? So I've been working, and all this AI innovation stuff is happening. I'm kind of learning a little bit about it, ChatGPT 2 years ago, and starting to test, right, ways that I could use it. And I just got to the point where I'm I could probably take more people, more clients on, as I learn how to become more efficient with AI, and then not increase the amount of hours, right, I'm spending on doing the work. So, I got to the point where I actually launched the brand, right? I realized I'm okay, there's demand here. I want to have some formal, business name and make it look official and cool. So a lot of my website, design in HTML was, when I was initially launching the company, a lot of the logos, the web design and HTML, right? So historically, I would have to get a UI UX designer. I'd spend thousands of dollars, wait for weeks. Then I would have to get a, developer to do it WordPress. Now I was able to kind of, bypass a whole stage, right, by actually designing the site myself. So I guess to kind of close the loop, with really the revenue marketers was just born out of the necessity of me just being entrepreneurial and wanting to, candidly, make a freedom and a great life for myself and do it, as efficiently as possible, where I'm not cannibalizing, the work that I actually have, paying my bills at Halo investing.
Yeah. So what are the specific use cases then with revenue marketers where you're incorporating AI? So you use the website example.
Yep.
Are there other things that's helping you automate, or where you're agents go?
I mean, I could talk about the use cases are pretty common across the board, even. So I won't necessarily talk about revenue marketers, but I'll give examples, of both. But when I think of all the areas that it's helped me with, I'll try to kind of bucket it into, key areas, and then dive into like more specific examples. So, one, go-to-market strategy, right? Like a lot of times, like if you're working for an agency, and you get hired by a brand, normally you don't just like start doing the work, right? You spend some period of time, learning about their business, doing a lot of analysis, interviewing customers, looking at the market, looking at competitors, looking at, their first party data, and basically looking at their performance data on their marketing, right? Looking at their Google Analytics. Like there's just a lot of information that one is you're digesting in. And then it's also extremely like, why do you think like McKinsey, right? And all these like large major consulting firms like Bain are charging, millions of dollars for strategy? It's because they could take in, very complex data, first party and secondary, and then distill it and make it very easy, to understand for the business. So like all of that is done, right? Like those firms like Accenture, McKinsey, like sorry if anyone works there or has worked there, but it's going to be tough, right? Because now AI essentially like, I'll give an example. Like I was working with a private equity firm. They acquired a client, right? They acquired a event rental services business. They now need to go build a go-to-market strategy. What do? They go either hire PwC, right, or a mid-market consulting firm, or they try to figure out how to do it, efficiently. So, my value proposition to them, like I was able to undercut, pretty big consulting firms and very reputable consulting firms, like showing them that like, hey, I could actually do this for you a lot more efficiently and probably higher quality, right? So I think go-to-market strategy is a big area where I really lean in. Like historically, I think just building off that, like business analysis, like data analysis is way easier now, right? Like big data, like is anyone familiar with like Tableau or Looker or Power BI, right? Like those tools essentially are built to make it really easy, for businesses to understand the data that they have, and then get insights, right? And then essentially, improve their business with that. So historically, like what would I have to do? I used to do a lot of data analysis early in my career. Like if you give me an Excel file, like you're screwed. Like I cannot work in there, but I understand the data very well, right? I understand all the data sets and all the raw data and information, and I know what questions to ask, right? And so like historically, what I would do is I would identify all the questions I'm trying to answer. I would identify where all the data sets are at, right? And then I would bring in, my business intelligence engineers and data engineers to essentially like, take all the data, manipulate all the data, right? Structure it in a logical way, build this like report. And it would take like weeks, right? And they would have so many priorities from other business groups. And now, right, I'm able to essentially take all the data myself, right? And use like a tool like Claude, right? That is very good with big data and analytics, and synthesize that data in minutes, right? And then you have to verify the data. And that's why I think like, you can't just like trust the information. Like you have to talk to the AI and like have them show you where they found a data point, right? Like have them walk you through the logic, right? Like pressure test, because sometimes there's hallucinations and the data may not be, correct. But I think like if you know how to, if you understand the data, right, that you're working with, right, and like what it helps with, I think like as marketers, like you no longer, need a engineer to build you like a very sophisticated with Claude, and I talk a lot. You get, my team is here from Halo, ask them, I talk about it all day, literally. And, you know, they just released design, right? Claude design, right? And the sophistication of this tool is just simply amazing, where now, right, I could take, like historically, I'll give an example, like Halo Investing. We're supporting multiple business lines, like we get requests from all different directions on different, you know, creative decks that we need to build, right? For partner launches, for product marketing campaigns, and there's just like closer. Oh, and I got distracted. Sorry. So I lost my train of thought. So historically, like what I would have to do is, you know, I would write out whatever I want in the deck, right? Like the story or the flow, or maybe I would like do the deck in like white slides, right? And then share it with the designer, right? Go in the backlog. You know, I would, we're slammed, and, you know, our brand and content lead is amazing, but like busy as hell, right? And, you know, she's looking at the request and she's like, this is another crazy Vlad request. Like, I'm going to ignore it for the next 2 weeks and see if he remembers about this. And, you know, now I could basically take the brand guidelines, right, and the standards that she has, upload the design system to Claude, take former decks, right, for context, like you did with the videos, and basically, you know, get myself 95% of the way there, right, or 90% of the way there. So, and that's not just decks, like I think just all design, right, like even like you can now use it to build like visual identity, right? But I think just design overall, like Claude, now you could do like cool motion graphics, right? So if you have like, you know, a article you're trying to promote on social that maybe has some unique, interesting stats that you want to put in like motion graphics, right? You could put those stats into Claude, right, and ask it to build you a motion graphic, and then, you know, tweak some things. It may not be perfect. Yeah. So design, I think, is an area. I think one of the things, like another thing that we're using, similar to the tool that you were showing, the TLDV, like we have a tool at Halo that it's called Gong. It's an AI sales enablement tool. Yeah. And basically, you know, we're using the AI tool in many ways to benefit us. So, but for marketing specifically, like this tool, you know, records hundreds of calls with prospects, with clients, videos, every single question they have, every single pain point they talk about, right? Everything they talk about in their personal, and what we're able to do is imagine, right? Like historically, right? I need to go build a brand positioning, right? I need to identify my ideal customer persona, right? Or my ideal target audience. And now I need to go, you know, build the persona map, right? Empathy maps, you know, you name it, right? Like positioning for every single ICP. And like, what would you do historically? You would call, you would try to work with someone to coordinate, you know, 5 or 10 calls with your clients that you already have. It would be a pain in the ass, right, to do it because everyone's busy, right? So now, right, you could just ask Gong, right, like what are the top pain points everyone's talked about within this account or within this audience, and you could leverage that, right? Or what do they like about Halo? What do they not like about Halo? You know, just so many good insights. And like another way that like I've used AI to help actually like identify what customers want or need, or like what are just even, you know, the differentiators that customers are saying about you is I have another, you know, client that I advise. I was able to basically scan their Google My Business, all their reviews within 10 minutes. It delivered a perfect deck, all the trends, all the supporting information, and they're like, oh my God, right? Like, they're like, this is spot on. This is exactly like this resonates, right? And it's the 6 differentiators that people talk about. Like then it went into each differentiator, the quotes that support it, right? Like the specific key messages, right? Like, so like AI, I think just building out brand positioning and like personas and figuring out who to target, huge benefit as well. I'm running out of ideas here.
It's like content gold too with
Yeah.
Gong, and what if you're getting pain points directly from a customer, use that to turn it into content of,
Yeah, and then you basically, like, to your point, right, like you want to go write a video script now, right? Or you want to build a storyboard, right? You take all those insights, you plug it into whatever tool that you're using, and you could leverage it that way as well. So anyways, these are just like, I could talk about this literally all day. I actually had more examples, but I'm blanking out right now.
I have one more question, and then I want to invite Paul back and take a few more questions, but then we certainly have time for one-on-ones with the reception. Especially at Halo, do you run into issues with IT and CFOs in approving these tools and IT and slowing everything down with that process, integrating the data into Claude and things like that?
Yes, I was complaining to them the other day. And yeah, I think look, bottom line is, there's you need to be able to understand what your stakeholders care about.
Yeah.
If you want to get shit done. My CFO, right? I just had this conversation the other week because we've been on Gemini, and I've been in the lab testing Claude, right, on my own things, on Halo related things that don't have sensitive information. And I essentially used Claude, right, to build the business case. And it was like beautiful. And I went in and I wasn't just like, hey, Claude, build the business case for weeks. Like I literally have a notepad right here, and I just keep documenting like different use case. What's the benefit? Why would I use this? Right. And basically I came back with like a beautiful, memo to the CFO of this is why I need Claude. Right. And that basically, and that got full support. He's like, okay, this makes sense. Right. No questions. And then basically like it's catalyzed like a chain reaction where like now product team is interested in it and other departments. So like now it all has to be funneled through IT. And I think like I can't like answer like how they set everything up, but it's like bottom line is, companies that especially we're like regulated by FINRA and the SEC, like serious stuff. We're dealing with a lot of like sensitive information. So I think we just like every single AI tool that we've written, where like we go through a very, kind of rigorous due diligence and build very specific kind of instructions around what kind of information we could, plug in. And also like Claude, you can actually plug it into your other tools, which actually, that's another thing, like Claude can actually take over your browser and do things for you now. So like Google Ads, like I don't have to, Google Ads campaign, like I know how to prompt it. I know what Google Ads, like what question I need to ask. And if I have a client, they're, managing monthly spend of 100K, right? For me to audit that account, it would take like days, right?
Yeah.
And you could have like multiple agents running on Claude, like doing multiple tasks for you in your browser, on your desktop. And, that's another, but so it's not about just uploading sensitive information with IT. It's connecting other systems, right, that have this information and like building the right, guardrails. And I beg for as much as I can, and then they tell me what I can do, and that's kind of how it works. But I think you have to basically like put yourself with any like tool or software that you're trying to, bring in and sell internally. Like you gotta like figure out who are your key stakeholders, and then what do they care about, right? And like what's actually gonna make them feel good in their role and like make them look better or save their job or whatever.
Paul, can I bring you back, please? And open it up for a few questions from the audience. There's got to be some. I would imagine.
I want to start by saying that thanks for having us, and also that everything Vlad said is wrong. That was actually illuminating. We'll talk more. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you and your hair.
Yeah, so I work for an agency with multiple clients who are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on digital marketing every year, but they're hesitant to move more toward using AI. It's hurting them in the long term in terms of, a lot of digital marketing platforms moving forward is wanting to have lots of different types of creative, right? They want to be able to have the algorithm sort through dozens of different types, mutual resident audience, move forward with that. And our customers, our clients are struggling to create that much creative because they're refusing to use AI. I guess my question for you would be, how would you sell using AI to a client, and what tools do you recommend for that use case?
Well, I'll start with the client that I mentioned earlier, Comcast, which is in exactly the same posture, which is, and they literally added to the work order and to our master services agreement a paragraph that says if you use a frame, a syllable, a whiff of AI, you're fired, basically. And the reason for that is I think it's a little bit of a head in the sand type problem. However, the reason for that is not wrong, and it's sort of relative to what you said about sensitive data. They don't want to worry about IP, about intellectual property. If they create a piece of content, you said you have a demand for huge amounts. If there's a bunch of content out there that unwittingly, was created in part by borrowing from, a modern author, say, for example, right, whose copyright has not expired yet, well, they're in trouble. So if there's a phrase, brevity is the soul of commerce, ha, ha, ha. But guess what? Shakespeare's not going to sue me, nor is his estate. However, that's their concern. So I will start with that. So Comcast is a big issue. The reason we have been able to insulate ourselves so far from that, and what I might tell your client if they're worried, is that if they're talking about creating content that you can vet, and you can, and Vlad probably has some ideas, but if you can vet that content for IP, which you can, then assure them that you can do that, if that is their concern. If their concern is we're going to get sued, which is a legit concern, that's a way to do it. We're going to vet it so that it's not borrowing from Toni Morrison or whoever, somebody who has a current estate. So that's number one. It's talking about vetting. If that is their objection, is that their biggest concern? IP?
It's just more so they want to have, it feels like more complete control and just, like you said, the distrust. And right now it's mostly a matter of the fact that they are reaching a point where their own creative team is kind of it's holding them back. They're not able to create that content they need.
This is typical, and I don't want to go with Vlad, but this is typical. So what I would do, this is my world, I tell them the story. And I tell them the story visually. And the visual story I tell them is about rising waters, basically, up to the point that they are really worried about the distrust. You just said distrust is the word used. Yeah. Find that line of distrust. Either ask Claude or ask them. But what is it? Or check all your emails. Maybe they said it then. But whatever they distrust, find a line below that will allow you to deliver everything up to that line without them worrying. And we've done this before with Amazon, a ton. All I guess I'm saying is, if their biggest distrust, and you're going to have to interview them a little bit. This is what you do on a daily basis, probably. What is it that you're most worried about? Pain points are something that is included in a lot of these models, right? Like, what hurts the most? Ask them, what hurts the most? What are you most worried about? Losing or getting sued for whatever that distrust is. Find something visual that can lead them up to it. This is going to save you guys and also make you a better customer, make you a better vendor for them. If you can do 78% instead of 0% of stuff with AI, that allows you to deliver tons more content up to, but not quite to, the line of their distrust, you'll win. But you have to explain to them, I think, this is my humble opinion, you must explain to them how you're staying below that level of distrust. And that visual will resolve probably a lot of their concerns because you've addressed it. That's the simplest way I could put it given that I know very little about your challenge, other than the capabilities and the resources are not being enough for the demand.
Another question?
I hear a lot about speed, efficiency, and doing stuff quick, and my fear is this a race to the bottom? So I think I'm curious, like, for example, I can build a website. I don't know how to code. Best friend's a developer. But now with Claude Code, I can build a wireframe or I can build a website. That doesn't make me good. And I feel like in this world, we're constantly getting shorter. We're losing that attention span. How do we start? There's a line in the sand. Why did you address that? Like, what's that point where, how do we start focusing on quality and something that's good? How do you teach someone, yes, this is good? Or how do you teach someone, this is great? So
I'm going to turn this over to Vlad, but I'm going to say this. Choose somebody like Vlad. In other words, it's actually a race to the top, in my humble opinion. Here's how. Your job is not to get creative done or get code written. Your job is to find the people, and this is ironic in this world of these huge models, right? But the people who do the best job of vetting the stuff that comes in. In other words, you're right. Speed can beget mistakes and junk and whatever, slop, right? However, if you find a group of folks and stick with them, if you do, Vlad sounds like one of those people, but if you can find a group of folks who are great at vetting that speed, ironically to me, you guys are in marketing, I think that liberal arts is probably the most powerful skill you can have walking out of college. Because you can analyze that incoming stuff better with a broader understanding. Art, history, politics, you name it. Is this image offensive or not? Pretty easy to judge if it's an art history. And I know that art history and images of sacred figures have not been in the news much lately. Our president, I believe, has issued some stuff. Anyway, the point is, did somebody in that team go, whoa, that might be over the top? Apparently not. But that was about speed, not quality. So I'm not trying to be glib. I'm just saying that race to the top is finding the people, not race to the bottom of finding how fast you can do it. That's my simple thing.
Yeah, I also think like just because you could build a website doesn't mean someone's gonna buy it from you, right? Or just because you could, build. I think the human element, and then what I would say is be very passionate about something, right? Like know something very well, right? Some sort of topic that you're very interested in, and try to actually solve the problem, right? But I think like just it's like I can't start a ERP software, right? Like I could do it, I could probably build it, right? Using Claude, but I'm not passionate about it. I don't really care about it. I'm passionate about marketing, sales. So I'm basically using it to benefit myself. And then there's the human element as well, right? Like I built my business with AI, right? But people are still ultimately, coming to me, right? As a person, right? Or as a human, right? Because of the authority that I've built around the authority I've built for myself in marketing, right? So I think that's all I think, brand building, right? Building your authority, right? That human element and connection is what AI is not bringing us down. I think it's definitely bringing us up. And I think now is basically, I've been saying this the last 3 days, but I feel like this is like the moment that like Bitcoin was, 10 years ago, right? Where now you can literally become a millionaire overnight using AI. I'm not kidding. I've seen people do it. And it's basically the biggest opportunity I think that, the world has ever had. Frankly, this is the biggest innovation ever.
It's a question over there. Green, if you have time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Hi, I have a question for both of you, but first of all, what are the benefits of saying please and thank you? I noticed you do that a lot using AI. I use Microsoft Copilot a lot in Excel, and I was wondering what are the benefits of saying please and thank you, because it is a little bit more time consuming over time.
Yeah. Okay. In my experience, it feels good to me. In other words, I know this is absurd. It is absurd. It is irrational and irrelevant, to answer your question, to use the word please when you're talking to a server in Nebraska. Okay, because that's basically what's happening, or wherever the server is. Where that data farm is, it doesn't matter that you say please. I don't know. This is my little check mark by the I have not lost my humanity entirely type thing in this new environment. And it matters to me. So yes, I think it's important to me. I will say that. You don't have to. Like I said, there's that strange little thing, which I think could be apocryphal, could be real, but saying please and thank you in a prompt is roughly like running your microwave for about 7 seconds or something like that in terms of electricity used, by just saying please and thank you. And I will say that the jump coming the opposite direction, which is from AI complimenting you and saying, that was a fantastic question. And you're like, shut up. I mean, give me the answer or whatever. Okay. And by the way, it guides you. This isn't I wouldn't call this insidious, but I would say it's close. And that is, if somebody compliments you, you want to stay related to them, whether dating them or talking to them or learning from them. So if somebody says, you are so damn smart. Okay. Then you're like, okay, well, then I want to ask you some more questions. And it also even prompts you to say more stuff, which is things like, wow, that was fascinating. Have you thought about calling your mother, right? Or something, right? Right. No, I haven't. Actually, I should call my mother. The point is, it keeps you engaged with please and thank you as well. Their version, which is a compliment. So my point is simple to me. And that is, if it feels good to you, keep doing it. I think it makes you feel, that's my phone, sorry. That's probably my mother. Anyway, she heard me. That's right. The mic's on, baby, and it knows what I'm saying. Anyway, the point is, if you feel good doing that, I'd say, I'm going to go turn up. If it feels good saying it, do it. Because it keeps you engaged on a level. That's actually my mother-in-law. So I was close. That's important. And I know we haven't talked about it much, but the humanities get lost in the speed. To your point. I think you will not, and to your point about the volume and speed and all this stuff's happening fast. If you can stay human in this, you're going to win, not just because it feels better, but also because your client's going to sense it, right? Because we're all attuned to speed now because of our phones. If you get attuned to rudeness or brevity to the point of, give me that, I'll take it, thanks, not even thanks, give me that, do this, etc., you're going to lose long term. So I know that's a long way around, but that's
why I switched from ChatGPT. It stopped liking me.
Vlad, you could be a little more polite in your prompt.
Oh, God.
Sure.
I did have one more question.
I'm so sorry. We're not answering any more questions. You're welcome.
Why did you go into a startup, preferably in the marketing, when you were a finance major?
So I started to learn SEO in college very early, and it was very easy to rank on Google at the time. You would just build like a ton of backlinks to a piece of content from, any website that is pointing, and then you would be able to essentially rank easily. And I started to learn it, and what I was really drawn to is like the quant side of digital marketing. And, I was 22, I was naive. I saw someone's Facebook status about a company that they're starting in River North. That's a startup. And I just, I was naive, and I thought it would be cool, to try it. And I gave myself 90 days. I even started real estate license courses, which my dad still tells me I never paid him $600 back for that course. But, I think what was very helpful was when I was in undergrad, being in the city, I was able to start building my network. And when the company was started, I was able to call some people that helped me early on to become customers. And I thought it was going to be 90 days and pay for my apartment for the rest of the summer before I moved back home. And basically, the company now is 13, 14 years. And, I haven't been involved in quite some time now, but I think just being ambitious, naive, and, thinking I'm going to take over the world is really why I joined. Yeah.
There's a question over there, if that's okay.
Nice to meet you, Paul and Vlad. I am on year 3 of building my own agency. So my 2 questions for you is, one, as being a founder and entrepreneur, what is one thing that you advise fellow entrepreneurs to throw out of their brain space to kind of like not spend time because it will hold them back? And the second part of that question is, what is your next quarter and 6 months looking like in terms of what you're dedicating your time to now now that you have these tools to free up your time, where is your time going and focusing on? Awesome.
Okay, here we go. Okay, what I'm throwing out, I almost said employees, but no, what I'm honestly is you're starting an agency. Briefly, what I said earlier, and Vlad alluded to, speed, speed, speed. So whatever, I know that's it's the inverse of the answer, but basically whatever is slowing you down, make that go away fast. So that includes response time to a client. That includes, how many hours do you have to spend with an accountant? Example, right? Or, and I know that's probably with an agency of 3 that you aren't spending tons of time with your accountant yet, but every aspect of a business takes time, obviously. The point is, if you can find things, that's the analysis I would do, I guess I would say. Find what takes the longest, not what is the fastest, because you don't know yet what's the fastest, but you do know now what takes time. And email responses to us took time. That TLDV thing is magic to us, because our clients, to them, it's magic. They're like, oh, he got back to me in 20 seconds. And he seemed like he understood what the heck we were talking about. He heard me, which is actually a very human thing, right? So back to your thing, throw out the stuff that's taken the longest. That's one. And the second part of the question was just like,
Where are
Oh.
you spending your time?
honestly, identifying things that do the same, as you just asked. Identifying the things, and TLDV and Runway and Chat have helped for us. Now, these are not fancy models. They're just not. And they're cheap, $200 a year. I would say find those models that suit your particular need in the next 3 months, and you will be delighted because you'll be faster and better at the things you know you do. I don't know, obviously, what you do. So that'd be my first answer to that.
So throwing out, I think probably just to some extent, like figuring out what are the tedious tasks that you have and that take the most amount of time that maybe don't contribute, to the business objective that you're trying to reach as hard, and then figuring out either how to outsource it or automate it or have someone else do it. And then, so that's probably like a lot of time, like especially in 2013, like there were a lot of things we couldn't do then when launching a business. I think, where am I spending time the next 6 months? I think just integrate, like honestly, we're at an AI talk, so I'm gonna answer this way, but I feel like, from a business standpoint at Halo, like go to market, we're launching a lot of new offerings and, leveraging AI to get us there without having to, rapidly scale headcount. But I think like actually building a like true AI maturity model and then, adopting it, right? And just, I'm in like R&D all night. Like I was in my home office yesterday till 10 p.m. Right? Just like literally, like I ran out of Claude tokens. I had to upgrade to the $200 version already twice.
It sounds like Vegas. I'm not a token.
Yeah, literally. Like I'm like, texting my fiance, asking if I could use her token. And then no, it's I'm just spending as much time because I feel like and putting yourself around people that are smarter about it, right? And just having humility, because I'm figuring out as well, right? Like I'm not an AI expert by any means. Like I'm figuring it out. I'm just trying to, I save Instagram posts that have like cool prompts. I save TikTok posts, and I just like try it myself and see what happens.
Can I amend my answer really quickly based on what Vlad said? I'm basically stealing what he said. Okay. AI to me, this is the visual, and I'm sort of in a visual world. That's where my mind lives. About that, back to that risk ceiling, where they're willing to go up to risk and then no beyond, get AI all the way up to that point. I would say the thing that matters most is your customers being aware of you. Being brilliant and being alone is not profitable. Being brilliant and being unknown is not profitable. So I would suggest the next thing you do, other than cutting back on all this stuff that we talked about, which I think is valid, create very short content, 10 seconds. You can do it with all the AI models that are out there. That's the research you do. Create 10-second content that lets prospects know you exist and why they, remember what's in it for them, why they will benefit by picking up the phone. We are so excited. What's the name of your company? Savoya? Okay. Savoya, we at Savoya want to help. We know, do a little research with AI. We know you guys are having a terrible time following up with customers in the supply chain. we can help them get it, make it easier. 10-second video in the email. If you put the word video in the subject line of an email, it triples the open rate. I do this to talk to my teenagers. I have a video. They're like, oh, take out the trash. Okay, but the point is, I know it's bait switch. I get it. But the point is, create content, send it to them based on what you know their pain points are. Use AI to find out what those pain points are, but use that to raise your profile. Attract. Remember, it's attract, simplify, educate. Attract by doing that. So that's what I do first. Sorry.
And with that, we're gonna hand it over to Gage. Closing remarks.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for coming out. I think what always I think about with CIMA is the fact that you're actually coming to these events, meeting people in person and discussing these topics. You're ahead of the curve already. I also think people these days are almost AI native compared to where we grew up. So you are tremendously talented. Think about that. And the fact that you do these in-person events is connecting the other half of the equation. So happy you all came out. I don't want to get in the way of you and food, so go grab some. Any more questions? I'm hoping that Vlad and Paul will still be here to answer them. So if you are here with CIMA, or if you're on the CIMA board, let's take a picture. Everybody else, go grab some food and connect with each other. Thank you so much. Paul for hosting us.
Yeah.